and honest to his prophet, Noble Ali. I rise giving the highest of praise to Father God Allah, the one who made you and the one who made I, in his infinite wisdom. Islam.
Islam.
I rise giving the highest of honors to his and our divine, wise, illustrious, ingenious, and intelligent prophet, who came in due time to redeem all men from their sinful ways. And his name is none other than Noble Ali. Islam.
Islam.
I extend those great honors to the great harbinger, John the Baptist, and forerunner in this era of time, who we know as Brother Marcus Garvey, who said, the Negro is crying out for Muhammad to give him the Quran of intellectual and economical welfare. Where is he? Garvey cried. Islam?
Islam.
I give honors to the first rightfully appointed Supreme Grand Sheikh, Brother E. Mediel. Islam?
Islam.
And I give honors to all Moors that are seeking to follow the Prophet's law and the will of Allah. Islam?
Islam.
Because we are all here to do his will. Islam?
Islam.
I give honors to our Grand Sheikhs of Temple Number 5, Sister Janicia McNair Bay. Islam?
Islam.
Islamism.
Islamism.
And I give honors to the 7 Elohim. I give honors to our Supreme Grand Council, our grand body. And I give honors to all you Moors, Muslims, Asiatics, brothers and sisters that are here with us today. Islam?
Islam.
Praise be to Allah and honors to his prophet, Noble Ali.
Islam.
I will now call upon our first speaker for tonight. Islam?
Islam.
I will call Sheikh Johnson Bay to the podium. Islam?
Islam.
Islam.
Islam, Moors.
Islam.
Happy holy day.
Happy holy day.
I rise giving all praise to Allah, honors to his holy and divine prophet, Noble Ali, honors to our harbinger, Marcus Garvey, and honors to everything that our chairman gave honors to. Islam.
Islam.
So, I come to you today with a reading from Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. The whole world is ran on a bluff. No race, no nation, no man has any divine right to take advantage of others. Why allow the other fellow to bluff you? Every student of political science, every student of economics knows that the race can only be saved through a solid industrial foundation, that the race can only be saved through political independence. Take away industry from a race, take away political freedom from a race, and you have a group of slaves. Peoples everywhere are traveling toward industrial opportunities and greater political freedom. As a race oppressed, it is for us to prepare ourselves that at any time the great change in industrial freedom and political liberty comes about, we may be able to enter into the new era as partakers of the joys to be inherited. Lagging behind in the vein of civilization will not prove our higher abilities. Being subservient to the will and caprice of progressive races will not prove anything superior in us. Being satisfied to drink of the dregs from the cup of human progress will not demonstrate our fitness as a people to exist alongside of others. But when of our own innovation we strike out to build industries, governments, and ultimately empires, then and only then will we as a race prove to our Creator and to men in general that we are fit to survive and capable of shaping our own destiny.
Islam.
Islam. And I will with that step down and no, pardon myself, no I will not. It is my duty to announce our elder section that we will have, and I'm going to ask our chief elder, Brother Yusuf Ali Il, to come and sit in the elder section.
So I'm being age profiled.
No, you are being honored. You are being honored.
In the elders. Old folks.
Now, with his wisdom,
I'm telling you. better tell you.
Islam.
I tell we put you in the elder section over there. You don't see me.
And with that, I'm going to step down and remain on high.
Islam.
Islam.
Praise Allah.
I'm sequestered.
I'll be an honorary elder.
Islam. Islam. Praise Allah and understood His Prophet Noble Drew Ali and understood you all who are here with us. Islam.
Islam.
Honest to Sheikh Shalom Bay for a demonstration of the philosophy and opinions of Brother Marcus Garvey. And in the spirit of Brother Marcus Garvey, may I quote this from the great prophet, that the world may hear and know the truth that among the descendants of Africa there is still much wisdom to be learned in these days for the redemptions of the Son of Men under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Islam?
Islam.
Islamism. We will now go into our chapter for the night that I would like to demonstrate on Islam.
Islam.
And may I say, if I say anything that's out of law, out of error, out of bounds, let that be on me and not Allah and His Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam.
Islam.
Praise be to Allah. We will turn to chapter 14. We will go into the ministry of John the Harbinger. Islam.
Islam.
See, first and foremost, we have to understand what is a harbinger, a harbinger. You know, a harbinger, as we look at it, we just saying it like that's a fancy little European word that they smut up there, right? No. This is not just a fancy word. See, a harbinger is somebody who's a guider. Somebody who could go, who's not necessarily a leader, but if that wasn't the leader, we would point to him as the leader because that's our leader. He's the harbinger. When people are called harbingers, we are not looking at them as a direct leader because they are direct leaders, but they will never tell you that they are direct people that are leading. They will tell you, well, look, this is what's going on and this is how I can assist you with this situation. So we see the ministry of John the Harbinger. And as referred to, Brother Marcus Garvey is the great harbinger of our time for our people.
Islam.
Right? So we go into the instruction. John the Harbinger returns to Hebron, lives as a hermit in the wilds, visits Jerusalem, and speaks to the people. 1. It came to pass when John, the son of Zacharias, and Elizabeth had finished all his studies in the Egyptian schools, he returned to Hebron where he abode for certain days. Islam?
Islam.
Now we have to understand the Egyptian schools. First and foremost, Noble Drew Ali said, and we already know this, that he is an Egyptian adept. And when we talk about an Egyptian adept, we cannot just think, oh, well, this is just stopping right here. No. Because Jesus and John, even though they studied through the Egyptian schools, what did Jesus travel to? India, Africa, and Europe. And if we were to break down where he went in Africa, it would be Egypt and Sudan, which is Nubia. And if we were to break down where he went in Europe, it would have been Greece and Rome, which were outposts. And if we were to talk about where he traveled throughout the lands, because it's India, but it's really not Asia, it would go Samaria, Pakistan, India. That's the route he traveled. So through different mystic schools, he was able to sit amongst those, learn and teach, and compare the lessons. So we understand that John had similar structure, similar teachings. And as our prophet referred, Marcus Garvey is our John the Baptist. And Marcus Garvey has similar structure and similar teachings. Let's watch. Islam. And then he sought the wilderness and made his home in David's cave, where many years before he was instructed by the Egyptian sages. Now we're understanding that it's an instruction by an Egyptian sage. What's a sage? What is a mage? What is a master? What is an adept? See, these aren't just titles. This is a spiritual attainment. This is a level that you are reaching. I'm not saying I'm some master sage or master adept or anything like that. But there are people out there. And they go up to the degree where their degrees are raised higher to the point of where they are angels. Islam?
Islam.
So in the Egyptian school, you will see angels coming out of the Egyptian school. Because these Egyptian masters taught the light of the world to the ancient world. So we see John, our harbinger, who came in due time. And what is he telling you? Up, up, you mighty race of people. That's about all we say nowadays, right? What is he talking about? See, it's a symbolical meaning behind that. Up, up, you mighty race of people. First and foremost, the Moorish Americans teach you to stand upright, independent, and fearless. Islam?
Islam.
I almost said pierceless. You know what I mean? Islam. But when we understand that John was giving us the degree of, first and foremost, the boat that he built, the ships that he sailed, the waves that he went. There is no other person that has laid out a clear economical and spiritual prowess besides Noble Drew Ali than the Honorable Marcus Garvey. Islam?
Islam.
Some people called him the hermit of Agindi, and others said he is the wild man of the hills. He clothed himself with skins of the beast. His food was carobs, honeys, nuts, and fruits. When John was 30 years of age, he went into Jerusalem, and in the marketplace, he sat in silence for 7 days. Now, first and foremost, let's understand this. The covering of the skin of the beast, we understand that it's cruelty that makes the man Ari, but when you was in Africa and when you was in Egypt, it was a tradition and a ritual that the man, per se, he would have a cloth or the cheetah's skin around him as a sash, as a badge and a reward. And we get that not only from one of our greatest forefathers, who the European has misled you to think is evil, who is named Nimrod, but we also could go to Africa. We'll see that today on any one of our brothers and kindreds. The European has taken it, he has made it truth in reverse. Islam?
Islam.
And this is the serious truth. So let's study what John and Jesus has to say. Islam?
Islam.
The common people and the priests, the scribes, and the Pharisees came out in multitudes to see the silent hermit of the hills. But none were bold enough to ask him who he was. Now peep game, because remember that Black Panther movie, right? But when his silent past was done, he stood forth in the midst, and all he said is, behold, the king has come. The prophets told of him. The wise men long have looked for him. So now John is telling you, in such a way, it's paid. The time has come. For what you all have tried to hide, it's already here, and it can no longer be hid. It is amongst you. Prepare, O Israel. Prepare to meet your king. And that was all he said, and then he disappeared. And no one knew where he had gone. The Sheikah said something important for Sunday school. Islam?
Islam.
She said, study what the prophet was talking about when he illustrated the great Moorish drama. The great Moorish drama ain't just a drama. First and foremost, you have to understand these words. You have to understand Greek. Whenever you talked about a drama, of course they was talking about play and tragedy, but do you understand drama was also a form of sickness in the ancient Greek world? They named things by the expression of people's faces. Just like today, in a European with their scientists, they can examine a mouse, and a mouse has over 25 different facial expressions, the same as a human. This is the reason why we as Moors, and the prophet brought us the Moorish Science Temple of America, and Brother Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Marcus Garvey, spoke highly of us learning science. We must begin to learn science and understand what is science. And a part of science is studying the human emotion. Studying the characteristics of disease, because disease itself has a characteristic. The prophet said we suffering from a disease right now. That's not just the disease of the so-called Negro, but the disease that has deluded us from following our original principles of our original creed, Islam. So we see John is demonstrating right here, and he tells us about you are going to meet your king, and then he disappears, just like the prophet said. He disappeared. Just like Jesus said, he disappeared. They bound themselves from the chain, surrounded by those men that were going to cause disruption to them. But how did they do it? They just told you. They went through the Egyptian mystery schools. He followed the instructions of the Egyptian sages. He went into the hills and he studied the hermits. He ate only fish, nuts and carobs and berries, and clothed himself like a warrior and a priest amongst nature. We must begin to return to what is ours. We must begin to understand the nature of who we are. The fact that we are in here is to talk about nationality, but the root word of nationality, you can still go into the root word of nature. It's only natural for you to be sitting right here. brothers and
Praise Allah.
sisters.
Islam.
It's only natural.
Praise Allah.
It is no strange things and mishappenings.
Mhm.
Law surely governs all events.
Indeed.
This book right here is not just a book, for this is a revelation. And as we go in it even deeper, it says, but when his silent past was done, pardon the body. I have to go over this again from number 7. But when his silent past was done, he stood forth in the midst, and all said, behold, the king had come. The prophets told of him, the wise men long have looked for him. Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. And that was all he said, and then he disappeared, and no one knew where he had gone. And there was great unrest all through Jerusalem. The rulers heard the story of the hermit of the hills. Just like now, they hear the story of the Moors down here in the city. They hear the stories.
Islam.
They waiting for it.
Islam.
They know of you. They expect it.
Islam.
Don't think you're not expected. You are expected.
Islam.
They're waiting.
Islam.
They're waiting for you to appear. Islam?
Islam.
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 Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. Islam. And as it is said, and they sent couriers forth to talk with him, that they might know about the coming king. Now, a courier is a messenger, a mailman. You know what I mean? A person carrying messages to the four corners of the earth. But the thing is, our prophet said our couriers are called angels.
Yes, indeed.
Those couriers are just, in between men. They're middlemen.
Islam.
Because you want to go from here to here, you traveling, bringing information, you're traveling. So couriers went out throughout the land to ask questions. Just like today, you may see messages, these same couriers, because a courier is not always somebody that's bringing you your mail. It may be the mail of others. They might be like, well, brother, hey, I seen this like this right here, and I thought it could go like this. Like the brother stopped, I got stopped by almost like 5 brothers today. And they like, well, man, one of them said like, man, I just want to be able to leave the country without my passport. And I said, well, brother, it don't work like that from us. And he's like, but why? What entities what them? And I'm like, well, brother, look, let me relay this message onto you. This is what the prophet said. We can probably help you with this, but when all that settled down, you getting a passport, brother. You get a passport because we citizens. You weren't even a citizen before you proclaimed your nationality. So for the fact that you came in and proclaimed your nationality, you have took your rightful place amongst the affairs of men. See, in the times of Jerusalem with John and Jesus, these same problems were going on. See, the Nabateans, pay attention to this, the Nabateans. These are a group of people who had dark skin, dark olive skin, woolly hair, wore fez and turbans. The Nabateans were actually responsible for Romans coming into Jerusalem 33 years prior to Jesus actually being born. The Nabateans, when the Romans came in, see, the Romans weren't always about war, but they were about war. And let me be frank what I'm saying. Let me be clear. Let me make sure you understand what I mean. Just because the Romans went into a province doesn't mean they always went with the sword. Just as way the Moors always went into a province doesn't mean we always went with the sword. So they have went into other provinces of ours with no fighting and killing. But they may have been fighting somebody else in the neighboring land, like the Egyptians. And our brothers may have been like, well, we ain't feeling that. And so they might cause chaos, confusion, be like, well, we're going to bang on the beast. This is how things like Herod came to be in Jerusalem. Because our ancestors that did rebel and weren't considered cowards did certain things, and it sparked another form of interest for them to send more soldiers and troops. So we have to understand things have been set in place right now for our people to do certain things. We can learn what the prophet has told us, or we can do like Jesus said, and we can take things greater and go higher. Because our prophet never got us here to set us with limits. He got us here so we can be protected and safe, and we can advance. This is for the prosperity of our civilization, for the uprightness of our people. This is not for just to sit back and we meet around. It's not a club. I'm going to be frank with you. It's not a club. It's not some order. You know what I mean? This is not just some organization. This is a government that's formed that ain't got too many people trying to take its place. And you know what that's called? It's called laziness. That's one of the 7 deadly sins, Moon. Islamism. I'm going to make this quick. Finish this demonstration up. The eyes, pardon body. But not disturbed, you rulers of the state. The coming king is no antagonist. He seeks no place on earthly throne. The eyes of men shall see. It is not none can enter but the pure in heart. Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. Again the hermit disappeared. The people strove to follow him, but he drawn the veil about his form, and men could not see. Jewish feast day came. Jerusalem was filled with Jews and proselytes from every part of Palestine. And John stood in the temple and court and said, Prepare, O Israel, prepare to meet your king. So you have lived in sin. The poor cry in your streets, and you regard them not. Your neighbors, who are they? You have defrauded friends and foes alike. You worship Allah with voice and lip. Your hearts are far away and set on gold. Your priests have bound upon the people burdens far too great to bear. What did prophet say? I'll do just like Jesus did. Get the chains and the bounds of the Romans right off me. Let me show you. Come to drama day. That's what the prophet said. Demonstrating the great science of nationality and the importance of the new age and the new era of time. This is what the prophet was demonstrating. The same things John demonstrated. John the Baptist of our era and time. Don't think Marcus Garvey was just a radical. He wasn't no radical. That man was brilliant.
Islam.
You have to understand that man spent time not only in Europe, but in Egypt, Africa. He studied. He read.
Yes.
He learned. He taught.
Islam.
He spoke.
Islam.
So we must understand, if we're not studying Garvey along with the prophet, if we not understand, first and foremost, we have to understand that the mystery system, that what we know is all in the palms of our hand, because it all belongs to our ancestors anyway.
Islam.
It's nothing a European or any Jew, Greek, or Hebrew, or whoever they want to call themselves. It's a birthright to every man, but it all comes back to us because it's our divine and national birthright.
Islam.
Just like this is a divine and national movement.
Islam.
So now we have to get back to immersion of who we are. See, these teachers is just like the teachers today. See, Israel today, Egypt today, Babylon today, Rome today, we know we was the Egyptians. We know we was the Israelites. We know we was the Babylonians. But because there has been a great demonstrator, and I'm going to use demonstrator, because there has been a great demonstrator to put a veil up over our eyes, now they have become the present day Egyptians, the present day Pharaoh. So now we had a Moses that was sent.
Islam.
And Moses said, let my people go. Islam.
Islam.
And after Moses came, then we had Aaron, the priesthood. We had the one who carried the sacred laws of the Most High. Islam.
Islam.
And then after that, as the prophet informs us, Joshua drove the Canaanites and the Moabites and the Hamites out of the holy land of Canaan. Right?
Islam.
So we have to understand the role now today has been reversed. The prophet understood then what happened then. But now we're understanding now what's happening now. If that's Moses, that's Aaron. Who was your Joshua, Moses?
Islam.
Who was your Joshua?
Islam.
We got to study.
Islam.
We got to study. See, because there was a lot of teachings that have been misled. But praise Allah for truth. Because as it says, they worship Allah with voice and lip.
That's it.
Now it's time for us to do the actions of the work. Islam.
Islam.
Your lawyers, pardon the body. They live in ease upon the hard-earned wages of the poor. Your lawyers, doctors, scribes are useless cumberers of the ground. They are but tumors of the body of the state. The state. They toil not, neither do they spin, yet they consume the profits of your marts of trade. Your rulers are adulterers, extortioners, and thieves, regarding not the right of men, or rights of men. And robbers ply their calling in the sacred hills. The holy temple you have sold to thieves. Their dens are in the sacred places set apart for prayer. Hear, hear, you people of Jerusalem. Reform, turn from your evil ways, or Allah will turn you, and heathen from afar will come. A heathen from afar will come.
Islam.
And what is left of all your honor and your fame will pass in one short hour. So let me understand. Let me break that down to you.
Come on, Mom.
First and foremost, you have to understand. Jesus told them the same thing, that a heathen from afar is going to come and sack you. All right? Do you understand that a heathen from afar mean that he walked over 3,000 miles to get to your homeland? Okay? A heathen. Something that's pagan. And if they switched it, we would be the heathens. And we would be pagans. So we looking at it in truth and reverse. They heathens. So a heathen in a fire is going to come and sack you. Okay, he wasn't talking about just the Romans that was there, because you got to realize the Romans that was there for about 30 years, so they mixed in with the women. They became natural-born citizens of Israel. See how that works? He was talking about the actual emperor's guard, the actual emperor's people. We do right, or if you don't do right, they coming. And they coming fast. You see what they did to our brothers in Carthage. You see how they took down Egypt, right? They coming. They coming. So we have to understand, because I got this lesson from one of my teachers, honors to Shashak ben Levi, and honors to Prince Gabriel Judah El, of the Sons of Ancient Code, the real ancient Israelites, may I add. This lesson was like this. When that sack happened, and what we know is 70 AD, because that was 70 AD that this was, it was predicted in 30 AD, but in 70 AD, etc. Pardon the body, I might have got that wrong because, you know, BC AD and all that, but we understand time of Jesus, etc., blah, blah, blah. But we understand this. The sack happened, and it was a real sack, and the temple, Jerusalem, was burned to the ground. But this is the story, and it tells it like this in the Bible, that the men were running, the men were cowards, that the only people that stood and fought the Romans was the sisters. To the death. To the death. To the death. The sisters fought. The men ran. And the remaining that did survive, they ran to Arabia. This is how the seed was carried on from Jesus to Muhammad. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But we gotta understand, with this sack right here, Nation can't rise no higher than this woman, Mom. That's it right there. Because it's telling you, they fought just like Abraham fought when he went to go save Lot. So now we have to understand, what is these teachings? What is this mystery system that the prophet talks about? What is this magic and duality that ones are using against us? Who are these people? What was going on in the 1920s? Huh? Why can't we find any video footage of the prophet talking? All right?
Come on, Mom.
I was looking at Oscar the Priest. I done seen a whole bunch of other things from the 1920s. So many old documentaries. I was seeing all type of Asiatics, and I say Europeans too from the 1920s. And they were speaking, but where's the prophet Noble Ali? We know Marcus Mosaic Garvey. They can't get rid of Marcus Mosaic Garvey. There's no way you could cover up Marcus Mosaic Garvey. You can't cover him up. But where's the prophet?
Islam.
Where's his tapes? And he was right here in where we at. In Bronzeville. In Bronzeville.
Islam.
Islam. And what is left of you, of all your honor, your fame will pass in one short hour. Prepare, Jerusalem, prepare to meet your king. He said no more. He left the court and no one saw him go. The priests, the doctors, and the scribes were all in rage. They sought for John, intent to do him harm. They found him not.
Islam.
The same mysteries that John had was passed on to Jesus. The same mysteries that Jesus had, he passed on to the world, and they manipulated. So he had to come back again and get it right.
Islam.
But we understand that we have to realize when we're dealing with the idea of coming back, it's not just some idea of he just is going to pop up, you know, on this specific date, and we know, because that's what causes miseducation. See, the spirit is what is one, not the soul. We're looking through the eyes of flesh, trying to comprehend the soul, looking for the spirit. And you cannot do that. It is, first and foremost, Allah is incomprehensible. This is why we tell you that Allah is speaking to man, through man.